This is The Bible and War in America, a biblical view of an American obsession and steps to recover liberty by Joel McDurmon. And this was written in 2012. And I thought the intro, the dedication was interesting. It says, "For my grandpa, a peaceful farmer who sat up at night while his son was in Vietnam." As a Christian and as someone who is fascinated by a lot of these topics that I cover on this channel, I'm always curious what people are saying about, fellow Christians are saying about Christians' involvement in modern warfare. Personally, I have some very strong opinions on that, as I've made clear on this channel. But I'll stick to the authors. I picked this up because I'm always curious, the guys that are promoting like prophetic views of things, or America in prophecy, or what are Christians supposed to do about the end times and that sort of thing. So I picked this up not really knowing where it would lead, and I was pleasantly surprised. This is actually a really good and very concise read. Weighs in at about under 110 pages. And there's some of the topics in this that he stops himself and says, you know, I could go on about this, but I'm going to keep this short. And I appreciate that. But he's definitely one of those authors I would love to sit down with and say, like, dude, tell me more, because I really like what he had to say. And he does a really good job of really dispelling this idea of that most of us have watched really rise in the last, this level of Christian nationalism that's really risen up in the last 25 years or so. This idea of Christians really cheering on the war effort and cheering on the war machine as though it's some kind of extension of that it's the way God's going to win over the world. And he does a great job of dispelling that and saying that if anything, and he points out, goes back to a lot of Old Testament writings about King David really being rebuked for having a standing army, too large of a standing army, and does a good job of articulating how having a standing army, especially a large, powerful military machine, is a recipe for disaster. And it almost always ends in tyranny, having that large military machine. So great points about that. And he also does a really good job of dispelling a lot of the prophetic stuff about a lot of the end times, the more pop culture end time scenarios, and showing how those have been, a lot of that writing in the New Testament has been deliberately misused to prop up this kind of military might. But overall, very good book if you can find it. I haven't looked on Amazon. I found this at Half Price Books for just like $5 or $6. So I doubt it's going for too much, but if you're like me and you're curious about these things, I would highly recommend it, because again, some really good information, and he makes his points very clearly and eloquently. And one of the things that he points out is about modern day Israel just being a political entity that's not the fulfillment of prophecy or anything like that, and he does a good job of explaining that, and takes one of the common verses that a lot of people use about that, where God's telling Abraham, I will bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you, and that's one of those Bible verses, that section in, I want to say Genesis 12:6, but it's Saturday morning and my brain is full, so but that's one of those proof texts that's cited for why modern day Israel has to be supported in the way it's currently supported. And one of the things he points out, that if you go by that, if you take that literally, then supporting the offspring of Abraham would also include Ishmael, who is considered to be the father of the Arab nations. So that would mean we would be inclined biblically to support all the Arab nations equally, along with modern day Israel. But again, he does a great job of, again, laying bare a lot of the foolishness around some of that interpretation of end times stuff. but at the same time doesn't just leave you with nothing. He does a good job of explaining some steps of how we can kind of reclaim our Christianity and divorce ourselves from a lot of that militarism that's, because again, I think modern Christians really need to take a step back and really reevaluate some of our militaristic attitudes. And that always makes me cringe a little bit, especially having served in the military, when people hold up the military as though it's some kind of, and that's one of the things he points out, that it's held up as almost like this idol. And if you've done any time in the service, you know that it is a very human, very flawed machine that is used to accomplish very brute force things. So I'll stop there, but that is The Bible and War in America by Joel McDurmon, a biblical view of an American obsession and steps to recover liberty. So excellent book. And this is another one that I'm probably not doing it justice in this overview, so I might come back to it. Any of you who are curious about, there's been a few reviews I posted in the past. Every now and then somebody will pop up and somebody on one of them said, "You didn't read that book." And I try to keep this stuff as concise as possible to a relatively short review. But I will be happy to go into deeper depth on any of these books. But I know that there's a limit to how much people's attention they're willing to give me on a video review. So anyway, that's all for now. And again, I'll post some related books in the end screen. So thanks for watching.